For 20 years, a medication that could have changed the lives of millions of women was labeled dangerous. Your doctor saw the warning, your friends saw the warning, and most of you, or the women you love, walked away from it because of that warning. Then, in November 2025, the FDA did something remarkable. They removed the warning, not softened it, removed it. And the way they announced it was so quiet that most people have still never heard about it. If you are a woman over 60, or if someone you love is, stay with me for the next 17 minutes. Because what I am about to tell you is one of the biggest reversals in modern medicine, and it has been sitting in plain sight. I'm Dr. Richard James. For over 3 decades in clinical practice focused on the health of older adults, I have watched one medication get treated like a dangerous third rail of medicine. Doctors were trained to fear it. Patients were trained to refuse it. And for much of those 20 years, the caution felt appropriate even to me, until I read what the FDA published in November 2025. The medication is hormone replacement therapy, estrogen alone, or estrogen combined with progestin, prescribed to women after menopause. For almost a century, it was one of the most common prescriptions for women over 50. Then, in 2003, the FDA added something called a boxed warning to every brand of systemic estrogen and combination product. The boxed warning is the most serious warning the FDA can place on a medication. And for 20 years, that warning listed stroke, heart disease, and dementia among the risks. Tens of millions of women either stopped HRT, refused it, or were never offered it. A generation went through menopause being told the safest choice was to suffer. The hot flashes, the sleepless nights, the brittle bones, the brain fog, all of it treated as the price of avoiding a medication that was supposedly too dangerous to prescribe. And now we are learning that the trade-off was built on a study that was misread from the very beginning. So if this medication was never really dangerous in the way we were told, how did the warning end up on the label in the first place? The answer is a story about one study, one headline, and one of the most consequential misinterpretations in the history of women's health. In November 2025, the FDA announced the removal of the boxed warnings from systemic estrogen and estrogen progestin products. Let me say that again, because most people missed it the first time. The boxed warning is gone, removed from the label. This was not a quiet tweak of secondary language. This was a formal, on-the-record decision by the FDA to strip the most serious warning category from an entire class of medication. The decision followed a July 2025 expert panel convened by the FDA, where menopause specialists, cardiologists, and researchers spent a full day re-examining the original evidence that put the warning there in the first place. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary issued a public statement calling the previous warning outdated and not reflective of what current science actually shows. The agency acknowledged that the warning had likely contributed to decades of undertreatment of menopause symptoms in American women. And yet, if you watched the evening news in November 2025, you probably did not hear a single story about it. This was one of the largest medical reversals of the decade, and it was buried. Why? Because nothing about the announcement fit the template of a dramatic headline. There was no new drug, no pharmaceutical company press conference, just a quiet admission that a decades-old warning had been wrong. Now, I want to be clear about what this means and what it does not mean. Removing the boxed warning does not mean HRT is appropriate for every woman. It does not mean you should run to the pharmacy tomorrow. What it means is that the blanket scare that shaped advice given to tens of millions of women for 20 years has been officially rescinded by the agency that put it there in the first place. That is a very big deal. The reason it matters is that most doctors practicing today were trained during the warning era. They learned to be cautious with HRT. Many never got comfortable prescribing it. So even though the FDA has moved, your doctor may not have caught up yet. Here is what comes next. The warning is gone, officially, which raises a much bigger question. If the warning was wrong, how did it get on the label in the first place? Because it did not come from nowhere. It came from a real study. A study that was misread in one of the most consequential ways in the history of medicine. In July 2002, a study called the Women's Health Initiative, or WHI for short, was stopped early. The reason? The researchers running the combined estrogen-progestin arm saw what they believed was an increase in the risk of breast cancer, stroke, and heart disease in the women taking the medication. They halted the trial. Within 48 hours, the story was on every front page in America. HRT, the medication millions of women relied on, was now being called dangerous. Prescriptions plummeted by 50% within a year. The FDA added the boxed warning in 2003, and a generation of women were either taken off HRT immediately or never started. Here is what almost no headline mentioned. The average age of the women in that study was 63. Many had been past menopause for 10, 15, even 20 years before they started taking HRT in the trial. That is not the population that typically starts HRT. Most women start HRT in their early 50s, within a year or two of menopause, to manage the symptoms that peak in that window. Picture a representative profile the study describes. Call her Irene, a 63-year-old woman who went through menopause at 52, made it through her symptoms without treatment, and then enrolled in a research trial a decade later. Her body had been without estrogen for 11 years. Giving her hormone therapy in that state is biologically very different from giving it to a 51-year-old woman in the middle of active menopause. The first group carries different cardiovascular risks than the second. When the 2002 headlines came out, no one made that distinction. Think of it like this. Imagine testing a medication designed for a 50-year-old by giving it to people in their 70s. You get bad results. Then you warn the 50-year-olds not to take it. That is essentially what happened. This misinterpretation did not come from bad intentions. The WHI was one of the largest and most important studies ever done on women's health. The data was real, but the way it was communicated to the public and the way the FDA responded to it lumped every woman into a single risk category that never should have existed. So the study that sparked 20 years of fear was studying a population almost no one was actually prescribing HRT to. Which brings us to the question that matters for you and the women you love. What does this medication actually do? And who is it really meant for? Starting around 2007, researchers went back and did something the original analysis did not do. They broke the WHI data down by age group, and what they found changed the entire picture. For women who started HRT within 10 years of menopause or before the age of 60, the cardiovascular risks either disappeared entirely or flipped into a protective effect for the heart. For women who started HRT more than 10 years after menopause or after age 60, the picture was different. That older group was the one the original 2002 headlines had captured. But it never applied to the women who were most likely to start HRT in real clinical practice. This became known as the timing hypothesis. It has been confirmed multiple times over the past 18 years. Large European studies. Long-term follow-up of the WHI itself. Reviews by the North American Menopause Society. Position statements from the Endocrine Society. Updated guidance from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. All of them have publicly updated their positions. All of them have accepted that the blanket warning no longer reflects the science. That means if you are within 10 years of menopause or under age 60, the evidence now clearly supports HRT as a safe option for managing menopause symptoms. The entire conversation has changed. Here is the part nobody talks about. There are women in their 50s right now who are losing sleep every night to hot flashes. Women who feel their bones thinning and their minds fogging and are being told by their own physicians that HRT is too risky. Those physicians are not being malicious. They are operating on guidance that is 20 years out of date because many have not kept up with the society guidelines that changed underneath them. This is why I am telling you this directly. If your doctor has not yet updated to the current science, you may have to update your doctor. That is a strange sentence to say out loud, but it is now true. And you need to know how to do it without being dismissed. Listen to this. There is an enormous difference between walking into a doctor's office saying, "I saw a video online that said HRT is safe now," and walking in saying, "I have read about the FDA's November 2025 announcement on the removal of the HRT boxed warning and the updated position from the North American Menopause Society. Based on that, I would like to discuss whether I am a candidate." The first one gets dismissed in 30 seconds. The second one opens the door to an actual medical consultation. That is the conversation I want you to be able to have. Before I tell you exactly how to have it, you need to understand what HRT can actually do for the body when it is given in the correct window. In the early start window, the evidence on HRT is substantial. Start with bone health. HRT significantly reduces the risk of hip and spine fractures in postmenopausal women. That matters enormously because after age 65, a hip fracture can be the beginning of a cascade many women never fully recover from. Loss of mobility, loss of independence, nursing home placement. HRT is one of the most effective bone-preserving medications ever studied. Cardiovascular health. In the timing hypothesis window, multiple analyses suggest a possible reduction in coronary heart disease. The protective effect appears strongest in women who start HRT within 6 years of menopause. This has been confirmed in studies from Denmark, Finland, and the long-term WHI follow-up. Cognitive health. Emerging research suggests that early start HRT may reduce the long-term risk of Alzheimer's disease. I want to be careful here. This area is still being studied, and the evidence is not yet as strong as it is for bone and cardiovascular outcomes. But the signal is real enough that major research centers are running trials on it right now. Then there is quality of life. Hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disturbances, vaginal dryness, mood changes. These are not cosmetic inconveniences. They are biological disruptions that for many women last 7 to 10 years. HRT provides significant relief for most of these symptoms. For a generation of women, that relief was off the table. This is what the 20-year warning cost. Not just the symptom control, the bones, the heart, potentially the brain. All of it sacrificed to a caution that did not apply to the women it was given to. So the benefits are real. The window is clear. The warning is gone. All that is left is the conversation. Before I tell you how to have it, I want to address the one question I know many of you are asking right now. I am already past 60. I am more than 10 years out from menopause, so this does not apply to me. I hear you. Here is what I want you to understand. The timing hypothesis does define a window where the benefits are clearest. That does not mean HRT is completely off the table outside of it. It means the conversation becomes more individualized. For some women past the window, HRT may still be appropriate, especially for specific symptoms or bone health. That is a conversation to have with your physician based on your personal history. But the bigger point is this. Even if you are past the window personally, you almost certainly know a woman in your life who is not. A daughter, a niece, a friend from church, a granddaughter approaching her 50s. Share this with them, because they have a choice to make that you may no longer have. For the ones asking whether I am telling you to go off-label or ignore your doctor, absolutely not. What I am telling you is what the FDA, the North American Menopause Society, the Endocrine Society, and the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists now officially say. This is mainstream medicine. It is just medicine that many individual doctors have not caught up with yet. For 20 years, a generation of women were told that the safest choice was to suffer. That was wrong. The warning was based on a study that looked at the wrong population, and the FDA has now said so out loud, on the record, in November 2025. This means millions of women going through menopause today have access to a treatment option their mothers were denied. It also means that if you are a woman who was told no, or a woman who told herself no because of what she read in a magazine in 2003, you deserve a second conversation with your doctor. Not an argument, a conversation. Here is exactly how to start it. Walk into your next appointment, sit down, and say this. I have read about the FDA's November 2025 announcement on the removal of the HRT boxed warning and the updated position from the North American Menopause Society. Based on that, I would like to discuss whether I am a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. Can we review my personal risk factors and talk through the options? That sentence is different from anything you might have said before. It names the agency. It names the society. It names the date. It frames the visit as a medical consultation based on current guidelines, not a patient demanding something she saw on the internet. It gives your doctor the exact hook they need to pull up the new guidelines and have the conversation with you. If your doctor dismisses that sentence, it may be time to get a second opinion, because the standard of care has changed. You are the one responsible for making sure your care reflects that change. The 20-year fear is over. The science has caught up. The conversation is yours to start. If you know a woman who has ever told no, send her this video, not as an argument, as a gift. The conversation she was denied 10 years ago is available to her again today, and she may have no idea. That is how powerful this quiet reversal actually is. And if you are that woman, pick up the phone this week, call your doctor's office, schedule the appointment. Use the exact sentence I just gave you. The worst that happens is a conversation. The best that happens is you get back something that should never have been taken from you in the first place. On the next video, I am going to break down another medication almost every senior is prescribed, and the one critical vitamin that protects you from its most damaging side effect. If you or someone you love is taking a statin, you do not want to miss that one. It is coming this week. I'm Dr. Richard James. The fear is over. The science has caught up. Now it is your turn. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.